be described as the most important resource on Earth. But with supply dwindling on some parts of the planet, it's also providing inspiration for conflict in the 21st century. Welcome to Watch Mojo News, the weekly series where we break down news stories that might be on your radar. In this installment, we're counting down 10 crucial facts you should know about global water wars. Number 10. What does the term water war mean? Basic science says it's imperative for humankind to have regular access to clean water in order to survive. But clean water is becoming increasingly difficult to find in some parts of the world, which provokes political tension and can ignite a so-called water war. Experts and analysts remain skeptical that problems over water will bring about a world war, but there is evidence that regional conflicts are rising and that they will continue to increase unless the situation changes. As leading hydrologist James Famiglietti observes, in terms of the world water supply, quote, "We are standing on a precipice." Number 9. Who controls the water? For areas less directly affected by shortages, it can be easy to take water for granted. However, when in 2008, investment banking leader Goldman Sachs referred to water as, quote, "the petroleum for the next century," they underlined a financially clinical nature to its regulation and distribution. It might be assumed that local governments control water supply, and in many cases that remains true, but there is an increasing trend for local authorities to sell off water utilities. The big businesses stumping up the cash are now known as water barons, as the industry becomes increasingly privatized. Number 8. Which areas are at the...
So here we go, folks. We got water barons now that we got to worry about. As if we didn't have enough problems. How's everybody doing today? I'm coming to you from the lush aquatic lands of Cape Town, South Africa, where nobody wants to talk about the truth. You can't seem to get no truth in the mainstream media about anything. Brother sent me an email the other day, a message. I forgot who sent that. Who sent that? Was that Brother Billy? I think. But what's going on in Cape Town? You know, Cape Town is running out of water. You know what? Maybe that's the best place to start. I'll start with the. So we've been looking at for a while now in this world. Don't act like y'all don't know. We've been looking at water wars, right? They just explain now. If the robber barons weren't enough, now we got the water barons. We had the banker barons. We had the military industrial complex, the war defense barons. And that wasn't enough, so now we got water barons. And it actually kind of makes a whole lot of sense because water is life, right? If you don't have water in 3 days, you're gone, right? Like that's where we are. You can go, 60 days without food, but only 3 days without water, and that's it. So anyway, let me see who we got this morning. We got good morning, Deborah and Grace and Paul and Robin and Robert and Helen and Forrest and Cindy and Wendy. All right. Hopefully everybody's doing well this morning. Yeah, grab a cup of coffee, Deborah. Grab your cup. I want to talk about a few things. I like to look into this stuff, and I always like to look between the cracks. I don't want to know what they want me to know. I don't care to know what they want me to know. Everything that's on TV pretty much is a waste of my time, unless it's some good sci-fi. Some good sci-fi. Everything else, you just have to look between the cracks. And so I was looking into Cape Town. And I kind of know how a lot of this begins. It all begins in the same silly story of we 7 billion people on this planet. We agree with some really horrible people to go do some horrible things. And I think if you really think about it, if you really think it out, 99.99999% of every problem on this planet all gets back to colonization. All of them. They all do. From, this idea that 99% of people should get behind a very small amount of people to go rob somebody else, take their land, pretend they don't exist, and kill them. And it's not just that people look at it and say, "Oh, well, that's anti-Europe." Ah, it's not anti-Europe because Britain was trying to colonize France for a long time. They just couldn't do it, so they had to go pick on somebody else. France was trying to colonize Italy for a long time. They couldn't do it, so they had to go pick on somebody else. Italy, they tried to colonize Britain. They couldn't, dang it, this wasn't working. So they were fighting each other back and forth. Of course, Britain made it to China first, and they put the fireworks, the cannon, on the clipper ships first, and so they kind of had a little more success, and then they went around the world taking everybody else's colonies from them. But it's just it's a bully game, right? That's all it is. It's a bully game. They try to bully each other, and they realize, dang it, it's hard fair fighting. Who wants to do a fair fight? We need to get involved and do some fights that are that are less fair. And so instead of fighting each other, they went to other places, like the Middle East and South America and Africa, and places that, you can pretend that people are invisible. They came up with these narratives. Oh, the people, they're not people that live there. They're just pagans. They're just above monkeys. We can take the land, do whatever. We're going to bring them religion. We're going to free them from their own corrupt little ways. And so they come up with these narratives, and then the 99% who don't question enough, right? They don't question the strategies to take the 1% to a 0.1% of a 1%, right? Like they're always just trying to acquire more wealth, and they can only do it if they get 99%, a group within the 99% to agree that it's a good idea to go rob somebody else. And so I just see it's always comes down to some home invasion. So let's do this. I'm gonna pull up. Actually, I had to publish this to another group real quick. I appreciate you sharing. This gets into a few other groups I'm affiliated with, right? Because this is some planned obsolescence when it comes down to colonialism, and it comes down to running out of water somewhere. Water been on this planet a long time. Water always been running. Water's always been running through all these countries where all these people live. If you look at the world from space, you will see at nighttime all the lights follow the riverways. They follow the streams. They're all around the coastal areas and the lakes because we need water. Water's life, and that water been there for a long time. That water been doing what it's been doing for billions of years, and we follow the water. But because water is so critical to everything we do, it actually is something to war over, which is why they've been saying the next wars will be fought over water. So let's do this. Let's go on down to oh no, I don't want to show that one yet. We're gonna walk through it. So if you're not familiar with what's happening in Cape Town, I guess it's going back 10 years or so, a little more than 10 years, where they said basically you're running out of water. The water, the levels are going down at the dams, and the city of Cape Town is going to run out of water in, I thought it was 2018, 2017, and I guess it got pushed out to 2018. They had some storms that came through, refilled things to a degree. And so now we're at the precipice. We're always at some precipices. I don't know what it is with precipices, but we always get to these precipices where we got to grow up. We have to stop listening to the 1% in their schemes, right? So, but anyway, outside of that, I'll explain the links to colonialism and how do we get to a planned obsolescence, artificial scarcity time in a city with people for 200,000 years, perhaps, that didn't need anything from anybody, right? How do you get into these economies and these societies where people run out of the basic critical things that they've had for a long time? What changed? What system did they adopt that brought them to a point where they had no water? So anyway, same thing. It's the same thing all over the world. It's the same thing in every single country. We've adopted a model that doesn't work. So let me go back and let's go back in history a little bit. I'll play you the news report for it because um, in case you weren't aware, I try to give a little walk up to where we are, but this is where we are with
allow a well-run city to run out of water.
that's too
We
loud.
have to plan that we are going to be in this permanent drought because the scarcity that is there is the new normal.
The one day you've got the mayor saying a well-run city will never run out of water, and the very next day she says if you residents don't stop using water as much as you are, there'll be no water left by December.
The point about planning for water is you have to look a long way ahead. Cape Town City in particular thought they would be able to get away with doing nothing until 2022.
Who's going to tell the truth about what's actually going on so that people can arm themselves?
While South Africans may not be particularly good, generally speaking, at changing their behavior, we are damn good at coming up with innovative solutions to crises.
Natural crises, not artificial crises. It's an artificial crisis. So the bottom line is what's happening now is you have people who are saying Cape Town is the first city in the world to ever run out of water. That's not true. We know that's not true. That's a lie. Because you look at Egypt and all other places, even the Romans with the aquifers and everything. When those aquifers shut down, the people leave. That's why there's cities all over Egypt of people who fled them after the water stopped. So that's a lie. It's not. And then they say, well, it's a mismanagement. And you listen to, that was the mayor who was speaking, and she said, well, we need to conserve water. We need to pull back. We're good at solving these crises. Not a crisis, but we're good at innovation. You don't need innovation, but innovation helps. I think innovation can help. And that so part of her solutions, I don't think they're the solution for the moment, but they are a solution in the long term, right? When the 99% run their governments, then they can dictate what's the most important factor. Is profit important? Or is water important? Or is human life important? Like and for us, for 99%, when they have the thinking caps on, they don't have the little ignorant cap on. They ain't got the angry cap. They don't have the silly cap. They don't have the drama cap. When they got the thinking cap on, it's very easy. I have no interest in profit. Don't let people die. Very simple. And we can force that on the government. And so that gets back to, I wish I could let's see how I find a video clip of it. There was we talked about it, I want to say it was last week, where there actually is a device for making water, right? They came up with this device for making water in arid climates where there's it's basically a box, and it's a box that absorbs water in the evening, moisture that's in the air, humidity, and it soaks into like this foam pad, and in the daytime, light comes in through the window in the box, it heats up the foam pad, evaporates the water, condenses on the sides of the glass, and it drips down into the water. Drips down into a barrel. And I think they were the device. No, I want to say it was Harvard University, but I'll mess it up. I forgot who did it. I'll see if I can find it. But basically, they were pulling like 3 liters. I think it was 1.5 liters of water. If I play it, it's going to just make everything I just said a lie. But it's mostly right. The point is, are there devices that pull water out of air? Yes. Water out of humidity. And these aren't new devices. These are old devices. What's new is that they're using a material that's highly efficient in doing it. It's an automated process where you can actually take these things, stab them in the dirt in the desert, and they'll just sit there and make water every single day and irrigate an area based on the humidity in the air. Very simple solution. If 99% of the people actually ran their world in their governments, instead of grouping up in their little silly groups, they actually could say, you know what, we're going to put these on the assembly line the same way that we did for tanks, the same way we converted our auto-making factories for tanks to go murder a bunch of people in World War II because we believe what the 1% said, or how all this stuff goes. We can convert plants over to make these devices that make water, and we can irrigate and give everybody water all over the planet, all who needs it. But we don't want to do that. But anyway, that was her point, and they're blaming her, and they're blaming back and forth. And then finally, somebody blamed climate change. You know, and I get there and I'm always like, oh, here we go, some climate change. Hold on, let me see if I can find a device for you. I could have been prepared. I was rushing this morning. I think this might actually be, yeah, oh, UC Berkeley. I think this is it right here. Hold on. Thanks, Doug.
Professor Yagi, thank you very much for inviting us into your lab.
It's a pleasure.
I read that you've come up with a way to actually suck water out of the air and store it.
That's true. We use materials called metal organic frameworks, or MOFs, and these are constructed from metal ions that are in minerals and organic units. Here you have the organic building unit and the other of a metal ion. And we mix them together and stir to make the metal organic framework, or the MOF. And once you remove the liquid, this is what you get. And this is the material that is the MOF.
So what does that powder look like close up?
So if I zoom in on a granule of this solid, the structure does not look very much unlike this. The metal ion and the organic are linked together to make the framework that is the MOF, and it encompasses space. The liquid will bind to the framework, to the interior of the pores. 1/3 of the world population live in arid regions where water is scarce. But that air in those regions contains about 30% humidity. These materials can take up the water from that atmosphere, concentrate it, and deliver liquid water using nothing but sunlight and the MOF.
So depending on what kind of substance you want to attract and store, you actually change the kind of metal and the kind of organic material?
By using a longer organic unit, I can change the pore size. By choosing a different metal, I can change the metal composition so that I can do a different kind of reactions, absorbing different kinds of gases. This MOF is a star for natural gas storage. And if you put this in a natural gas tank...
So the bottom line here is that we have devices. I had to prove I'm not lying about nothing, telling the truth. So if we determine that this is a problem, that people are going to die of dehydration in Cape Town, and we actually were concerned, like we thought this was a problem, we thought that they were important, that their lives mattered. Any government, any party, any group, anywhere in the world could very simply get behind something like this, fund it, and produce water for arid climates, you know, where people live, which makes sense to me. It's not a problem. It's not the problem. That is innovation, and that's a solution. It's what I always talk about, automation and utilizing high technology. Actually, not even high technology, it's dumb technology. This is old stuff. But utilize, it's just the moth that's new. But utilizing technology to save human life more than murder human life, kill human life, because everybody's in their own little groups, and we can't come to a basic common ground, which is don't kill people. Get back to fighting for your health care, your gun rights, and all that other stuff later, but just talk about don't kill people. So we know we could re-engineer the world very easily. We know we could feed people, we can give them water, but back to Cape Town. We got to fix the heart. We got to fix this thing first. Once we fix this, then we can start to group together. When the ignorance from the distort lotteries and the stuff that we mess around with, when that's gone and we stop grouping up, we can then tell governments what they're going to be doing. And we'll be able to bring together mass manufacturing to save human life as opposed to take human life, take their land because you want their water. So anyway, so I was looking at all this. I was like, okay, what's going on? What's going on in Cape Town? All right, that makes sense. They're mad at her. You know, I always see conspiracy because we live in a time where people conspire. Why? Because we roll out debt-based systems everywhere. Everybody wants money, and they're willing to murder other people, take it from them, or just passively look the other way while they acquire wealth so someone else can't have it. So they told the mayor a long time ago she didn't do anything about it, nothing significant. And so now you're at a point where a lot of people are about to die. And so looking between the cracks and trying to listen to what are they not saying? Because there's always some nots. There's always some invisible between the crack stuff that nobody really talks about and never makes it into the mainstream. So I spend my time, obviously, on alternative news. And I came into this a gentleman who, that didn't even sound right, but don't worry about that. There was where was this at? This was a news report that came out by The Real News. I think it's this guy right here. And the gentleman said something which stopped me in my tracks. And I said, what? This didn't make sense. Let me play it to you. I want you to wait for it, see if this makes some sense to you too. But I sat here and I watched the whole news report, and he kind of slipped it in the middle. And so not like it was a big drawn out problem, but I think it was everything. So let me go over here. It's right here. If you listen to what people don't say, or listen to what is hidden in the cracks, and then talk about, like, wait a minute, did anybody just hear that? All right, let me shut up. I'm playing for you.
Interesting debate, and it's, as in California, an awareness raising at which, where is this sort of bulk water going? And it turns out that 60% of the incoming bulk supply to Cape Town has already been reserved for the commercial agriculture. Now, that's not necessarily the kind of staple foods, the maize meal, the corn that is the basic staple for most of the residents. But instead, it's actually used for irrigation, and that's often in this wealthy agricultural area for the finest wines in Africa and some of the finest in the world.
All right, so we're going to pause right there. So listen to what he said. They talked about a whole bunch of stuff throughout the whole news, but that was the only important 3 seconds in every single Cape Town problem, why they're running out of water. He said it in those 3 seconds. 60% of the water, 60%. 60%, we define that as something called most. Most of the water is diverted to go to the vineyards. To the vineyards. So, I used to grow grapes, but that's not a story. My grandfather grew them, so I grow them too. But grapes, they like water. Grapes like water so much that, you know what they do? I love this soil microbiologist. Her name is Elaine Ingham. And what she likes to talk about from the Rodale Institute, she likes to talk about organic growing and farming. But one day she was talking about grapes. And she was having a discussion with tomato farmers, right? Because, you know, tomato farmers, they want to know how to grow more tomatoes. Tomatoes love water too. Tomato love some water. Anyone who tells you tomatoes don't like wet feet, they have no idea how to grow a tomato. But that's another story. We'll talk about that later. Tomatoes love water. All plants came out of the ocean, people. Okay, to just throw out whatever you think you know. They all came out of the water. So they all have what are called adventitious root systems they can develop in their genetics for growing in semi-aquatic conditions, which is why I love aquaponics, but that's not what we're talking about. So she talks to farmers here and there, and she said, well, how deep do tomato roots grow? And what did the farmer said, oh, tomatoes, they can get about 7 inches. Good year, they grow about 12 inches. I get big tomatoes, 12-inch roots. And she explained that, you know, there is no determinate depth for root growth. When you understand what a root is, then you understand there is no determinate depth for how deep roots can grow, right? It has to do with the vascular system of the plant, but that's a whole physics conversation we won't get into. So the bottom line is, she explained, she said, well, the grapevines, you know, she said tomato roots can grow 12 inches. She said grapevines in France, when they go into caverns underneath the grapevines that are almost 80 years, century old, 100 feet underground, they see the root systems from the grapevines coming through the tops of the caverns. 100 feet long grapevine roots. Why do the roots grow that long? Because grapevines love water. The more water they have, the more they can do what they're predisposed to do, which is make a damn grape, which is full of water, okay? So this idea that grapes should be growing in South Africa is nuts, okay? How did grapes get to South Africa? What the heck didn't happen? How did some grapes get there? Well, it started with a story of colonialism. See, this is how this works. See how this kind of just all plays together? So between the French, the Dutch, and the English, but they've decided the 1%, let's clarify. Because people get to a point where they think, oh, well, you know, he's talking about this race. It's not a race issue. This is 1%, okay? The 1% decided that they could adopt the water system. Water systems going into Cape Town. Let me show you this map here. Where the water go? If 60% of the water is going to the grapevine, this is the map right here, the vineyards in Cape Town. There's Cape Town over here in the bottom left, but you can see the water flowing in. I don't. Oh, you know what? They didn't code the water blue in that one. I got another one for you, just in case you. So South Africa has become one of the biggest exporters, a humongous exporter of wine, especially since 1994, when people stopped hating on South Africa. Now they could really join the debt-based system because they got rid of apartheid, so they could now really become true capitalists and just, it'll just help. And you notice these are all the great growing regions that are heading to Cape Town. You notice that they've tapped every major waterway, the three of them, going into Cape Town. Why? For commercial irrigation, for growing grapes to make wine, to send them to another damn country. That's how this works. It's all a thing of commercialism. So the idea that anybody dies in Cape Town from a lack of water is a lie. Anyone who dies in Cape Town, they're going to be dying from a lack of their government saying no to corporations who are making big money on some of the finest wines being sold around the world for mostly the 1% and the wannabe 1% who just want to have a wine just because it makes them feel fine. You know, I'm not going to call them sellouts. I'm just going to say, y'all were willing to pour out wine because the French didn't want to go to war. Y'all remember that? Let me see if I can find that video. I'll play that video. Y'all remember? Y'all were willing to pour out that wine because I got a phone call. I'm never gonna get that. Y'all willing to pour out the wine because the French didn't want to go to war. You know, hold on. Got somebody ringing in the grapevine. I get over here, and the grapevine is ringing. Let me turn that button. All right. You got telephones in the grapevine, y'all. Don't worry about that. It kind of happens. So, I broke my train of thought. But if y'all want to pour out the wine because the French didn't want to go to war, I wonder if anybody's going to pour out some wine because you don't want people in Cape Town to die of lack of hydration. I wonder. I'm just curious. I'm gonna sit back and watch. And so this feeds in with what we always talked about before. Let me see if I find the video. I'll play the video. But it feeds into what we talked about before, which is corporations and this debt-based solution. Remember, it's not a capitalism problem. I got my friends that hate capitalism. Not capitalism. Capitalism don't work. Socialism doesn't work. Communism doesn't work. How do I know it doesn't work? Because they've never worked anywhere ever. So I don't get in debates about which one to pull out and which one to put in. If they've never worked, we've always ended up in these systems where the 99% become slaves to something else and it doesn't work out. We need new forms of government. We got to keep evolving. Let's not go back. Let's go forward. So it's not a thing against capitalism. It's a thing against taking over a people's area who you see as invisible because they don't exist. They're indigenous. And you put borders around them. You roll out your capitalistic, or it could be social capital, it could be whatever it is, your own little rules in government with your own little laws so your friends can make money. And down the road, the thing collapses and everyone's sitting here wondering why. The same thing happened. You know, Al Jazeera actually I was watching it yesterday. Al Jazeera had an awesome series on Battle for the Nile. No, it's not called Battle for the Nile. It was called, I think it was a War for the Nile, something like that. But they kind of basically explained that what's happening, or what had happened, is, you know, the Nile comes from, let's say, Sudan, and it goes down through Egypt and different places. And what they were basically doing is the crops that they were growing downriver were suffering from water being harvested upriver. So they decided if they took over and they prevented the poor farmers from growing food that they need with that water, they could get more water downstream, which I think was in Egypt where they had the cotton crops. Y'all know what cotton is, don't you? Because this all relates. And so it's the same thing. And so in terms of corporate, you know, and that was just big cotton commercial. This is big wine commercial. There's also Roy Boy's tea. Roy Boy's tea, one of the most popular teas sold around. They have that crop growing, but that's more of a drought tolerant crop. That's a crop that it actually doesn't send down deep roots to get as much water as it can. It'll send out shallow roots. They'll keep going deeper, but it can withstand drought because it grows in South Africa. We brought this plant that does not grow there and is growing it in places where it doesn't grow. But then, you know what? They probably deleted all the videos. The Americans pouring out the French wine. Oh, I don't see any. All right, I can find one later. It was just fun. The Gulf War came. They were pouring out the wine. So, but then this gets into climate change, right? And so we start to, well, is this climate change? And so people, they don't want to talk about anything other than what fulfills their narrative, right? Why? Because I believe, I'm not saying me, I'm just saying people. They believe in climate change. Something bad happens. You know, you have disaster capitalism. You also probably got disaster fake news too, because a disaster happens, and instead of actually talking about the problem, talking about a solution, you know, talking about the problem, people gonna die if they don't get water. Talking about the solution, 60% of the water is used for a corporation to make money, and they've been pumping that water out of that country for a long time. They talk about climate change. Why? Because climate change fulfills my narrative. It means I can get back at my friends. It means that I can tell them that they were wrong and I was right, because now people gonna die and now I can be right. And we don't get to deal with the problem with a solution that works, because you just heard a problem that actually fulfills your little narrative of what you want in your agenda, as opposed to the thing that'll actually save human life. It's the same thing when police come to a neighborhood. And I love contradiction. I love to put contradiction out. You know, so police come to the neighborhood, any face will do, right? You know, this is the way it used to work. When they're looking for somebody, it fits a description, any face will do. Right, that fulfills their narrative, because this person looks like they probably did some crime because they're poor and white and got a mullet. They're poor and black and they're in the ghetto. Oh, they fit the narrative. Doesn't really matter. I didn't grow up that way. Can be prejudiced. I'll just arrest anybody. Same thing with blaming climate change on what's happening in Cape Town. It's not climate change, not mostly. This has to do with the boom in the wine industry right after apartheid. And now it's booming. You know, South Africa is one of the biggest wine exporters in the world. And you can see, I think that's triple growth on that graph right there. And so instead of talking about climate change, which makes you feel good, why not talk about give the people water, and then we'll figure out what's on down the road. So looking at the wine industry in South Africa, it's booming. It's booming. Y'all say it's booming, they jumping in the fields. Look at that right there. They're jumping in the fields. It's booming because they're siphoning off the water, and so it doesn't go to the people, it goes to the commercial benefits and profit, and people die. And it's okay, because we can talk about other stuff. And this is why the news, the real news, they don't talk about real problems, because things that get in the way of profit, those are the bad things. People dying, oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna go to the wine store tonight and get me some South African wine and be okay. See, my perspective is this: put them out of business. That's my perspective. Why? Because when you were warned, when they warned the mayor, and this is why I'm saying nobody's talking about the problem, but when the mayor was warned, they all knew we running out of water. We need a new solution. What could those vineyards have done? They could have said, you know what? Cape Town is running out of water. Most of our crop are young. In fact, I think that what I was listening to, Al had to play the video. I was playing a commercial for the South African vineyards, and they were saying that less than 5% of their grapevines were over 15 years. So they're all babies, right? This is all the boom, you know, prior or just after apartheid. So they're all young trees. So you can actually uproot them and move them. And so if I were I don't know if they're billionaires, but I like the word. If I were a billionaire and I had my vineyard in South Africa and it was pumping water from the city of Cape Town, it was on, let me go back to the map. It was on this route to Cape Town. You know what? That's not going, I'm in front of some beautiful, pretty grapevines. That's not going to send the message I want to send. Hold on, let me swap. Let me go to the view of the vineyard. Let me see if I didn't set it up. Oh no, I didn't set it up. See, that wasn't even ready. But you know what? Because I want to say it the right way, I'm going to set it up, and y'all just going to bear with me for a second while I set it up. Oh, no, no, I'm not going to do it. Dang it, I'm not going to. Now I know I didn't say. I'm going to stay in the vineyard. I had a beautiful picture. It was a beautiful plantation. Just imagine me sitting on a porch. It was a white, pristine porch. It was big, beautiful, pretty, nice woodwork, and it had an overview of the vineyards, all the grapes growing, all green in the past. Down, down, down. So if I were this billionaire sitting on this porch, looking over my beautiful, pretty, great plantation, I would say, you know what? I got a lot of money in the bank. I got a couple yachts, got just all the benzes that I need. Family's doing well. I don't need to just hoard more in the account. I don't need to become an Oprah. I don't really need to become a Trump. I don't need to become a Hillary Clinton. I don't really need to become an Obama. I think that I'm going to go ahead and start moving my trees. I'm going to dig up my vineyard because the climate is changing and we know we're running out of water, or I'm pumping the water out, which is why they're running out. So I'm going to get the hell out of here. I now realize my dirty ways. I'm a dirty bastard. I'm going to take my vineyard and I'm going to go to a different part of Africa or a different part of South Africa, or I'm going to take it back to the climate that they come from and grow them in the place they're supposed to be, as opposed to pumping out these people's water. These are one of the many, many, many things that could have happened. They didn't do that. They just sat back and said, okay, well, we're going to sit back and chill. And, you know, those people got to go find their water somewhere else. They got to go figure out their own thing. That's not my problem. That's their problem, which is why I don't care. Let them go out of business. They knew it was coming. Turn the water on, the 60% of the water that's going to those irrigation fields, and push that water straight to the people. The people don't have to die. The people dying is just a simple issue of not giving a damn, right? The land that people live on, it's to support the people. It's not to support the people who love wine in America, the people who love wine in Britain, the people who love wine in France. The land and the water that's around those people, what they grow, that's for them. Like I think somebody just posted a minute ago. It was India, right? Was it India where Nestle, Nestle was pumping all the water out? With the first, and that was one of the first water war reports, right? Going back 10, 15 years ago, where they found that Nestle was pumping out all the water out of the aquifer. They were putting it in bottles. They were selling it all around the world. They were pumping out all these people's waters. The farmers' wells didn't go deep enough. Their wells ran dry. Farmers started dying because they didn't have the money to pay for their families. I think they were committing suicide too. It wasn't just Monsanto got them committing suicide. It was Nestle and the rest of these bottling companies that people are still buying drinks from, still buying their water and their sodas and all this stuff. And they basically pumped the area dry. And after the area was pumped dry and they sold that water all to all the other countries that are becoming more and more lush because people are buying it and drinking it and urinating it out, and it's going into their aquifers, they're creating droughts in India, right? So this is actually the same precise thing. So it's a multiple trifecta. But outside of that, the other thing is that, so when you're talking about climate change, like I said, I don't care about the debate. I don't care because both extreme sides are ignorant. Both extreme sides have been caught lying and falsifying data. So I really don't care about the debate. What I care about is we know our climate is shifting. Don't care who's shifting it. What I care about is we prepare for it. So when we know these things are coming, we can prepare to save human life. And this is what the vineyard should have done. This is perhaps what the tea companies, if they can withstand drought, and most of their plants should make it through some sort of drought, but you don't water plants for people who want to make profit, because sellouts all around the world love South African wine. And I'm not saying ban South African wine. I'm not saying boycott it. I'm saying that nobody's actually talking about the problem. Commercial irrigation is a good thing if you're feeding the people on the land where it comes from. If you're selling it at a higher price to someone else, this is what these big trade deals are about. This NAFTA and all of this crap that shouldn't exist, it's just about billionaires becoming trillionaires and 100 millionaires becoming billionaires. They want to sell their product at a higher price to people not around who's actually growing the product. So you shouldn't have vineyards around people who are starving, who don't have water. You should have tomato fields. You should have wells. You should have things that those people are existing on, because they don't have an economy that can be global. You can't have any international or global business in and around Cape Town, not in South Africa, not related to what has, what they need for food. It's the same thing with Mexico. Why in places in Mexico can't they afford the own tomatoes that they grow, the peppers that they grow? Because they get a higher price for them in America. They get a higher price for them in Canada. So the people who own the land don't take care of people on that land. They screw them, they'll employ them, they'll pay them pennies, but they'll sell it to someone else because that's what these big trade deals are for. It's all related. I say it all the damn time. It's all related. And so I think it was Brother Billy who sent me down this path. I looked at it before. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. But that's actually what's going on, is that they are willing to let people die because they don't want to hurt the commercial farmers. And it works the same way as America. I guarantee you that the vineyards are taking care of their politicians too. And so they're not going to siphon it off. There was a big boom in South Africa from local farmers who were starting up their own little farms. Their water getting shut off though. See, that's how this works. Their water is getting reduced and shut off. But the vineyards, oh no, their water's still flowing. And that's, and so if people don't actually talk about what actually is happening, the actual problems, it's, and again, it's not even a race thing. Never is, never was, never will be. It's always a thing, because that's white folks in line too. Good European, South Africans in line too. But those lines will go away. They're going to start trucking water in, but that's not the solution. The vineyards need to be trucking their own water in. That's how this should work if the 99% actually ran the world. So let me see what y'all are talking about. I'm off down in the weeds. I'm going to post a commercial. I was going to play it. I'm not going to play it. I'll probably get in trouble. I'll just post it. There was a commercial talking about the South African wines and how lush they are, and the crops are doing so well. And we're just providing some of the finest wines to the world from the beautiful areas in South Africa, while poor people die from not having water. Like, it's sick. I might have to play it. Might have to go get in trouble. So anyway, let me see what y'all are talking about. Let's see if anybody's disagreeing with what I'm saying. Because to me, it was very obvious. It was very obvious when this young man called. You know what? I didn't even finish the video. I got all excited. I didn't even finish. I don't want to finish it, but maybe let's do this. He had an awful lot to say, and it was an 18-minute interview, but I think he had another 2 minutes he was talking about the crops. Let his statement finish.
As well as the famous tea, the rooibos tea. Now, the stress agriculturally on these two products, the vineyards that create these beautiful wines, and the rooibos tea, this red bush rooibos tea, may well put them out of business entirely in coming decades. And that's one of these adaptation questions. Can there be different agricultural systems or better irrigation systems? Or should we begin to think about these cities as really having to undergo this changes everything, a revolution that Naomi Klein in her major book on the topic of sort of taking advantage of these crises and using them to rejig the local economy, the production system, the agricultural system, the urban form to make it more compact and water efficient, the consumption norms and disposal systems. All of these now must come up for debate. And what's interesting in Cape Town is that there's a long tradition of environmental justice. And yet, because I think true across the world, many of our local environmental justice movements have been oriented to stopping pollution or addressing very localistic systems. Food systems, for example, is a very important part of the Cape Town progressive community. But it's not yet been the ability to connect the dots and to put climate justice onto the national agenda. And to ask the questions, should this new government that's about to take power nationally, as we have a new incoming president of the African National Congress, he may well take over the presidency of the country incoming.
All right, off into politics. And so, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing that we're dealing with all over the world. If the vineyards, if they actually have politicians in their pockets, then of course the politician will take the blame. They'll say, oh, well, people need to ration water. Y'all drinking too much water. We need more water for the plants. And so, hold up, let me do it. I will get into it.
In this segment, we're going to review our South African portfolio where we have the leading luxury brands from that country. We work together with some great people and some great brands. John Engelbrecht has the Russ and Vreda and Guardian Peak brands from his estates. We work together with Ernie Els and represent the wines from his estate, and also Johann Rupert, who is the chairman of Richemont, one of the greatest luxury goods companies in the world. And from Johann, we have the Brotia wines and the Anthony Rupert wines from their Lormeron estate.
South Africa, one of the most beautiful nations in the world. South Africans have been producing wine for over 300 years, but the past 20 years have seen an amazing change in growth in this industry. Yet many consumers are unaware of the great luxury wines that South Africa has to offer. Hello, I'm Linton Kaiser, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Ernie Els Wines, located in Stellenbosch, the second oldest wine-growing region in South Africa. In this course, we will look at Telato's South African portfolio and show you some great wines that you need to know about. This course will take about 20 minutes to complete, and there is a...
I'll post it. You can watch the whole thing, but all right. I'm done with it. I'm gonna look at the comments, see what y'all are talking about. But this is the sick world we live in. This is the absolute sick world, and the people that you actually hire to solve the problems, they're not talking about the problem because their intent is not to solve it. Their intent is to make an awful lot of money, keep getting whatever campaign contributions that they're getting from whoever they're getting them from. Big wine, big vineyard, the water barons, however you want to put it. In fact, there was another thing. What was the thing? It was 2 weeks ago. I thought I posted it this morning when they're talking about the other water wars which are happening in Ethiopia. And I think this is Ethiopia, like Ethiopia upstream, they want to put a hydro dam. They want to put a dam to create electricity. And downstream in Egypt, they're worried about it so much that Egypt's talking about, if y'all put the dam up, we're going to blow it up. They're going to send warplanes to blow the dam up. But water is key. It is so key. It's like any other resource. It's like zircon, zinc, tin, copper, oil, whatever they're willing to go to war for. Like it's this same idea and concept that somebody else owns something that you want. And so you're willing to go take it from them, right? And 99% of the people have to get to a point where they stop agreeing with these 1% things, narratives, because it fits a story that they like, and turning on the people. The answer isn't to, damn it, this is why Trump and climate change and the Paris Accord. No, that's the fool's response. The response is make sure the people have their water. How do they get their water? You don't give it to the grapes. The grapes have deep root systems, and if the ones that actually have adapted to grow in that climate, they'll be fine. And if they won't be fine, you let that company take some of their millions and billions and bring in water trucks. All right, let me see what y'all are saying. I don't talk to myself. Okay, got a couple other people came in. Yes, Jeannie, it's industry. It's always industry. Like in a world where money can take human life, and we put money before human life all the time, every group, even the ones that are supposed to be progressive, then of course, every problem is always going to come down to industry and greed. And they'll lie about what the problems are because they don't want you to go for the simple solution. And the solution here is simple. It's industry. You're putting profit before human life. So I don't want to talk about, like, I like the idea, water catchment systems and wells and desalination and bringing, like all these things are great ideas, and we got to use that innovation. But you don't let one person die from it. You know, they got, oh goodness, I saw another video. They have places over there. They have, oh my goodness, maybe I'll show the video. They have water literally just jumping out of the ground in parts of Cape Town. There are, what is it called? There was a guy who went there. And he went to this round. But the thing is, they don't like to tell everybody about where all the water's at, because then y'all gonna come on over there. They don't want no poor people going where the water's at. You know, water, like I said, water been here a long time. Hold on, where is it? Where is it at? Right here. Water has been here for a long time. And look at this. I saw this.
Doing at a children's park in the middle of Cape Town on a Wednesday. Oh!
This is crazy. So he was at this, I don't park. He went behind the park, found the houses. People got a little money. Went behind the gate, and look at what he found. Let me see if I can fast forward. I just want to show you, because people always lying about stuff. Watch this.
And it doesn't look like much, but here is what they call mainsprings. This is the mainspring of Cape Town, and these are the vaults that we have access to that go into the side of the mountain to see that spring actually bubbling out. And this place is phenomenal. The first thing that you notice when you walk here on the ground is that the ground is so soft. You sink in. It's so saturated with water. And there's literally just water coming out of the ground. Matt! You guys know Matt, old familiar face. He's helping us out today because he knows pretty much everything there is to know about water and Cape Town history and all that type of stuff. How much is that per year?
Ooh, I'm just fascinated by this amount of water that's coming out around me everywhere. You can basically sink away.
This area is the source of the mainspring for Cape Town.
I'm flabbergasted by it. Like, the more people are always lying. They're always like, you can help people, but somehow a lot of folks are in this idea of hoarding, right? They only recently, they said you can't top off your swimming pools now. And so they got swimming pools, but they got people standing in line for water because it's about me and mine. And all right, let me read what y'all talking about. Let me see. Never knew that about roots. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Deborah, yeah, you're welcome. I'm a little bit of a geek. That's all I do is I study plants, and so that's kind of my thing. And it just relates to it. That's why I look at it. I'm like, what are grapes doing in South Africa? That's not right. But but if you pay attention, I'll post some of the wine tours, and you'll notice that they put the wines not in places that climates that they can grow well, but in places that have mineral contents and shale that actually produce a different flavor in the wine. So they'll grow them in places where from a hydro perspective, they will not do well. The place does not get enough water, but it produces the right flavor in wine. And so a better flavor in wine is more important than human beings, like keeping their life. Like, it's okay to let a lot of kids die from a lack of water, but it's not okay for my wine to be a little tart. Be a little tart. Because we all want to be some kings and queens, and we're okay with the devastation it does all over the world because it makes us feel good. Okay, Celia had to go off to work. Have a good day on the plantation, sister. I'll see you later. Brother Bajorn said, regrow the forest, the water will return. Yes! Yes, this is somebody who does some reading. And I always appreciate when people pay attention, right? So where is a lot of the water going? The ground's not holding water anymore. Why is the ground not holding water? Because we're killing off the ground. Why are we killing off the ground? Because I don't know, pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate, the things we're killing off, the microbiology that actually make the humus layers that actually hold water. So when it rains, the water doesn't just drain through. It sticks in the layers that are put together by hundreds of billions of different types of microbiology that make it, and so it's just, but you read, not a lot of people read, not a lot of people understand that. But when you don't, look at the Dust Bowl, y'all. Brother Bajorn, look at the Dust Bowl. And I think it was a documentary on it, kind of explained that when you destroy the soil, the water says, oh no, it's got nowhere to go. The microbiology that's been here for billions of years, they structure the soil so that it holds water. That's what I just basically said for somebody who didn't understand what I was saying. When you kill off that microbiology with Monsanto products and big chemical products and fertilizers and pesticides and all the things that plants don't need, never have, but you want to grow them in an area they're not supposed to grow. You want to grow apple trees in places that get fungus, and so you got to spray fungicide on them all the time, which kills off the soil microbes, which means they don't hold water. So now you got to be okay with deploying forced labor, slavery, and even starvation on areas like South Africa because you want to have an apple orchard in South Carolina. This is how it all feeds together. Always does. Thank you. And that's spot on. If they rebuild the soil, and that's another thing that Elaine Ingham talks about. You rebuild the soil, you grow sustainably in a food forest or in a way that actually grows plants in a healthy way, not in a mass-produced manufacturer way that can take a poor farmer and turn them into a millionaire or a millionaire orchard into to hundreds of millions of billions. Greed. It's the same exact, and this is why all these points all feed together. I get back to a place of if you can't have a hoarder that has love in their heart. Hoarders don't have love in their heart. Hoarders have love for themselves. Thank you. Somebody said permaculture, and that's it. Brother Billy said, I tell you something, there's plenty of water in Scotland. Yeah, tons of water in Scotland. You know, tons of water in America too, because they bottle it all up, they bring it here, we drink it, and we pee it down in our aquifers, and we keep it. We don't send it back to India. We don't send it back to Africa. But, you know, we have to somehow come to some sort of agreement that $1 billion is too much for somebody to have. A corporation perhaps shouldn't have any more than $100 million. I don't know. Maybe we need to cap these hoarding companies so that they get to a point where they can't make any more, and then they give it back to their employees, or they give it back to the land of the people. I don't know. But we got to get past allowing hoarding to be legal, because that's what all this is. Yes, Kelly, it was Nestle. That's who was doing it in India, but they were doing it all over the world. But the big documentary was about India. Put it out of business. I don't know that we have any other choice. Like when companies see this coming and they know that their product is going to kill people, if you're Monsanto and you know your glyphosate is a carcinogen and it's killing people, don't wait, right? Don't wait. Pull it off the product. Pull it off the shelf. You know, if you know a drought's coming in Cape Town, pull it off the shelf. Get your vineyard and take it to a place that it's sustainable, a place where it can grow permanently there based on the climate. The sad part is you got to pay someone a fair price for their land. And that's what they don't want to do. They don't want to pay a fair price for the land. They want to steal the land or get the land cheap, which is why they're in South Africa. Nikki said, I read in a book how grapevines got to South Africa in the first place some time back. Yep. And that all had to do with colonization, you know, and that is another attack on, like, when you start looking at sustainability and you know, where crops grow, it almost should be against the law to grow crops in places they can't grow naturally. You know, and I don't like laws, and I'm kind of scared of that whole sentence I just said, because I think we need to delete 99% of the laws. But we have to have some sort of logical requirements as to where you can grow things. If you grow them in places where they can't grow sustainably, you shouldn't be able to grow them there. But as the climate changes, the other part of the discussion is we need to be shifting where plants grow, because plants are doing it. The plants that, you know, they already know, oh, we can't stay here. The climate's changing. We need to move north a little bit. We need to migrate south. We need to move a little further down into the fields or higher into the mountains. And the plants do that, and the seeds take in those areas. But we feel that we can always fight nature. We can grow something where it's not supposed to be unsustainably, and we don't care. And so that's what people push to do. But that, to me, is the climate change debate. It's not about who caused it. It's about what do we need to change to keep feeding people? What do we need to change to prevent wars from coming from people fighting over the fact that the climate's changing? Which is why, I'm totally against both sides of the ignorant debate, because it's a debate in ignorance. They're okay with this happening in Cape Town so they could be right. And I'm not interested in that. All capitalism is predatory, just a matter of degree. I agree with you, Don. I think every form of government we ever tried has all failed. And I'm not interested in going back to any type of government. We need something new. And the evidence of that is look around the world. If any of those governments succeeded in taking care of their people and actually living well with others and building up national security in their neighbors and just deploying the things that the average person does in the 99%, working well with others, sharing with their neighbor, if any government ever did that, the world would not be the way it is today. So that's evidence. Every government existing is wrong. They all need an update. They all need an upgrade. We need to upgrade and move forward and stop fighting over the past of what didn't work. So I agree with you. Sandy said, this isn't the solution. It's serious. And if the world doesn't wake up, we're screwed. Right. The world is not a solution, sister. I agree with you. The world is a problem. The world is a problem. And the more people who can start to admit that this sick system has got to go, the sooner we can move forward. And unfortunately, it does mean you got to look at some negativity every now and then. And I hate negative stuff, but you have to admit that, you know what, this is screwed up. And from my perspective, from everything that I've seen, people say, well, this is the best that we got. Not to me. I don't think we can get any worse than this. You got 20 million people starving in Yemen. You got, people in 400,000 starving in the Congo. You got new wars being planned. You got wars. We got wars going on that we don't even know about. Nothing can be any worse than today. So anything, in my opinion, is better than today. And so if we can find a common ground, maybe that common ground is today is sick. Brother Billy said, see golf courses in dry areas looking green and lush, then rich golfers have to play. Yes, and you look in South Africa, you see a lot of news reports I saw. You saw all the lush, beautiful areas, and then all the poor areas, which helped people of all races were just dry as a bone. It's kind of like California. California used to have these laws. Some part of California I was growing up, I'll say it was around LA. You go out there and you see the left side of the lawn was green and lush, and the other side of the lawn was just dry and rocks and nothing, because you could only water half of your lawn. There was some law or something. The swimming pools in South Africa, the Cape Town, they still got water. They still got water in the swimming pools. Maybe they can't top them off, but they still got water in them. And so there is water. There's always water. They're just lying to us about the fact that poor people can't have it. Why can't poor people have the water? Because you're poor. That's the only reason. You can't have the water because you're poor. And so meanwhile, people want, and this is why people get upset with me. Well, how come you're not mad because Trump tweeted? I don't care what Trump tweeted. Did Trump tweet something about water in Cape Town? Okay, he didn't. Then I'm not interested. He tweets things because he wants people to listen, right? Same thing. Y'all get mad at me. Same thing with Obama. He say things because he wants people to listen. The minute that you showed me as a president, as a government leader, whatever you call it, the minute you showed me you're okay with bombing kids with drones, I'm done with you. And that's just how I work. I give everybody a chance. And right now, I'm not interested. Now, the difference with Trump is we have to work with Trump because he is the president. These problems can get resolved if we have a dialogue. If we don't have a dialogue, nothing's getting resolved. And so, all right, so I'm not going down the presidential route. Don't want to discuss that. That's not, we need to make Cape Town solutions going viral. We need to make the fact that they're about to starve. I mean, they're about to kill a city of people. And it could be somebody wants to land. I mean, the first video I did on this, I just did a mineral map search for Cape Town in South Africa. There's a lot of minerals around there, a lot of resources around there. So it could be that too. Starve out a population, shut the water off, or just shut the water down low enough, or pump the water out in wine bottles. And after everybody moves and migrates away, the land will be almost free. You can give a miner a bottle of water and send them down there to get some mines and minerals. And so there could be so many layers upon what actually is happening in this matrix. And I don't have an interest to go through all of them and try to figure them all out. The bottom line is when a politician says something that make no damn sense, it's because they're lying. The mayor of Cape Town says something that make no damn sense. You can see very clearly, let me go back to the map. You can see very clearly what's happening to the water. It's being siphoned off into the wineries, into the commercial farming area. And when they lie and they don't want to talk about that, then I know that they're corrupt and I know that they're up to something. And it could be land, could be wine, could be payoffs, who knows? Payola, pay to play. Jeannie said the problem is consumption was put in front of humanity. The problem is consumption was put in front of humanity. Same applies in any region that grows grape. Absolutely. Well, consumption, I think there's consumption and then there's like this ignorant consumption, right? There's consumption because it's something we need. And then there's consumption because it's just something that we kind of like. And I think that that's where we get in trouble is we're actually doing what the wealthy want, right? And, it's the same like those images you see on Facebook where they'll put, you got all the rich guys sitting around the table eating steaks and lobsters and shrimps and good. And when they're done and lick the chicken bone, they'll throw it on the floor and you see all the poor people run after it, fighting over the chicken bone. That's what we're doing. We fight over the chicken bones. And that's the issue with consumption is that, if you're going to grow something there, you grow something there that the people there need. And once the people there have abundance and they have more than what they could possibly need, then you can talk to me about some trade agreements. Then you can talk to me about globalism. Then you're talking about an economy that's stable where people won't starve and die if you go to some sort of a world or massive trading structure, right? You have a chance of it being fair as opposed to a chance of it just killing a bunch of people, which is what all the trade agreements are about all over the world, which is why I keep saying Davos is some BS. Davos is BS now. It's always been BS. It's just about screwing people. They grow best in arid climates. Yes, they do. And a lot of their flavor comes from that, and that's why they got those deep root systems. And then the Rooibos tea, the Rooibos plant, it's a little bush, but it grows in arid desert climates. It's supposed to be there. It's indigenous to South Africa. The grapevines aren't. Sandy said the jet stream is messed up because of the warmth in the Arctic. The cold air is ousted down to the northern hemisphere, and the warmth stays in the Arctic, causing the melting. However, However, the fresh water isn't melting into stunning fresh ponds. It's melting into the ocean. So okay, climate change. The droughts are going to get worse, and Cape Town is the first. Israel's already having right. Okay, right. So, and I agree. I mean, and you're right, but you're talking logic. You're talking science. People, Sandy, this is not the world for that. Apparently, not yet. We have to get back to that place. But the climates are changing, and I don't think anyone in their right mind is debating that the climates aren't changing. I think what I see the debates is who caused it and who's going to pay for it. That's what they debate, right? And I guess my debate when it comes to climate change is, how do we help people? How do we use automation to help people? How do we help the people who are currently about to die instead of jumping on either side of the debate? Because I see corruption on both sides of the debate. So I'm a people person. That's what I'm all about. Why not use innovation for the sake of life? The only reason, Jeannie, is because people are busy fighting over silly things. They're busy fighting over their own corrupt leaders, which is why I go back to climate change. They're busy fighting over either corrupt side of a debate. Instead of help people and solve problems, it's blame people and siphon money to the other group side's leaders. That's what it's always been about. Hoarding is easy accepted because it's called survival. Well, there's a difference between hoarding and survival, right? Survival is getting what you need. Hoarding is keeping more than what you actually need. I mean, you can get what you need, and then you make sure no one else dies by making sure they have what they need too. But then it's sitting back and just watching other people suffer because you want more than what you can actually carry or even defend or what you actually need. So I think survival is a little different. I think survival is surviving, right? And sharing, because this is what tribes have always done. They survived and they actually shared because they knew when they didn't have enough, they'd share back the other way. The same thing with old world America in Europe and other places. You shared with those who were next to you, with your neighbors and people in your town, because you never knew when you needed. We didn't sit back and rely on a government for health care. We were health care. We didn't sit back and rely on a government for welfare. We were welfare. I grew up in a family where I still don't even know who my family is. I have no idea for some of them, because if people needed stuff and they needed a place to stay, my grandmother took them in, she fed them, she took care of them. Like, that's just how it worked. And that's what we got to go back to being, and stop relying on government and leaders to do these things. You know, in terms of a climate change debate, my interest is in people looking at the actual problems and scientists and giving us solutions, not politicians. Because anytime there's a politician that leads that initiative, no matter how good and well-meaning that initiative starts off, it always becomes about a lie or siphoning wealth. Why? Because they're a politician. That their job is to make deals and debates and give trade-offs. When it comes to human life, I don't have any trade-offs. If people are dying, we have no time for politics, which means we have no time for grouping up. It's all about saving human life. So that's my stance on it. It's time for all of us to challenge the status quo. Yes, Jeannie, we have to back away from it. The status quo is completely broken. Permaculture techniques can help bring the health back to soil. Yes, and that's the whole purpose of permaculture, right? Permanent culture. I'm gonna say it real slow. Bjorn, sometimes they don't hear you. Permanent culture. It means you get to exist permanently. And climate change will have less of an effect on climates in areas that actually have robust soils and robust permaculture. That's what our ancestors try to hand. And sometimes I like the word's too easy. People don't understand it. I don't know, but Jordan, they don't understand it. You know, but when our ancestors handed it down to us, farming practices that actually withstand climate changes better than others, they grew more fruits and vegetables more robust. They handed it down to us. That's what we kept doing. But corporations don't like to do that. They like things on schedules. And so that's where permaculture died. But it's making a comeback. You know, we just have to push harder for it. So they probably have covenants on water too. Yeah, and that's what that report was talking about. They were talking about the water barons. What's up, brother Harsh? How you doing? You know, and so I just like the logic. I like logic. I like truth. I like looking at the root cause of the problem. And this problem has come back to the same issue: colonization, taking a sustainable population who are utilizing permaculture for water and for food that's sustaining itself, and you put a border around it, you call it a country, and you give it an unsustainable debt-based society that eventually always collapses, because greed is the bottom line in the modern currency system. Jeannie said maybe the companies will move out, and they will, and they actually mentioned that in the report, and they will, because their bottom line is profit, but right now their bottom line is not being touched. They get the first tap of the water. They're not going anywhere, not yet. You know, if there are any ethical ones, they're the ones who will start to migrate. And if you're buying wine, that's who you should buy it from. But the ones who aren't migrating, oh no, they'll let the people die. They'll keep pumping the water. Now, when the grapes start having problems, that's when they'll move out. But I think they'll move long before they lose the vineyard, which will be long after we lose the people. You know, the answer for the people is, you poor people, just pack up and go somewhere else. You don't belong here. This is for grapes. The grapes got the water first. Yes, Brother Jimmy said, class is the destroyer. It is, and class is another way of division. Jimmy, I still hear people talking about, oh, we need to eat the rich. And I'm like, you know what? How you gonna eat the rich? First of all, the rich don't taste delicious because they don't eat healthy and organic. They nasty and they're full of carcinogens in their body. They're dying too. But two, you know they can buy armies. You're not gonna eat the rich. The rich is gonna kill you. Right? Soon they'll have robot armies. You ain't doing anything to the rich. All you can do is break the bank. You can stop spending and buying their products, you know, and stop dividing up on class. The poor, the subclass has everything in common with the poor class. The lower class has everything in common with the middle class. The middle class has everything in common with the upper class. Our big issues aren't between those classes. Our issue is the above class, the ruling class and the elites. That's the problem. But even still with them, you're not fighting them. You know, I think all you can do is tell them, you know what, y'all can keep what you earn, keep your yachts, keep your cars, your houses, you can hand down the wealth to your kids, but we take away the reason for money. We take away their current hold on the world, and we redistribute the new process, the new productions into a time of abundance. So Grace said, I think the intent of the laws is more important than the laws. Right. And the intent of the laws is always to siphon tax dollars from people. They'll call the law something wonderful. It'll be the help bald people law. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to help bald people. That's good. I like that law. And the law really is just somehow funneling money to corporations that cause hair loss. Like, but I'm cheering for the law because it has a good name and I don't read the law, which is why, and this is how I got started in this. Back in my early 20s as an activist, I started reading the laws and I realized they're lying about the laws. And people are still clapping. If you don't read the law, then you can't see the scam. Don't cheer for a law just because of its name. Definitely not because a political party or a politician wants to get behind it. All the laws, they're all scams. They always have been because you don't read it. So logically, it makes sense that the laws actually don't fulfill the purpose. The laws keep that problem going. They make industries out of problems. Universal income, land use, laws of proper stewardship. Yeah, and I agree with all of that. I agree with all of that. Of course, politicking isn't to blame. Oh no, they'll never blame politics because they need the money. They keep getting the grapevine lobby. So, you know, they'll never turn around and say, take the money from the farms. No, that's where they get their money from. They'll say, people, half of y'all got to go. Y'all just move away and let the ones die that are going to die. And none of the mainstream media talks about it, so that's actually how this is going to go. Stewardship is the key component. Yes, Jeannie, we have to become stewards of the world. We have to stop playing. Like we were talking about yesterday in my alien stuff. What did he say? What did the alien say in with the day the earth stood still? You know, she said, the politician, she said, what are you doing on our earth? What do you want with our earth? And he looked at him and said, it's not your earth. And we have to get to that place of stewardship where we realize this earth isn't ours. This is not a human earth. We are just one of the species that are here amongst billions of other species in a galaxy probably full of billions, hundreds of billions of other life forms that live on these planets. It's not our earth, and we need to start acting like it's not our earth. Cindy said we can do better. Oh, girl, I don't think we can do worse. We can do better. Yes, we can do better, because we can't do any worse than this. The 99% just dumb as a bag of bricks. All we do is we get behind the 1%, every scam, lie, whatever, to get back at the other side of the 99% that we don't like because they didn't drop some trash on our yard or something stupid. We can't do any worse. Cindy, we doing bad as we can do. We can't do any better. We just dumb, just lost. There's a good documentary out there about water situations in California. I'll look for the link. Yeah, you know what, Cindy, send that over. I appreciate it, because I think the story's the same all over. I think when we actually look into it, you'll see that water it's a resource. It's like currency. When you have a system where capitalism runs the world, which it does, unregulated, and it's allowed to come. See, you know what? This is where I think, maybe I'll say it this way. I say money should never come between a human being and life. Maybe a monetary system, a government, a cog, anything. Nothing should ever come between human being and its life. And whether it's capitalism, socialism, communism, bullets, drones, bombs, white sulfur, water, nothing, and that's the common ground that 99% should all have. Nothing should ever come between a human being and life. And whatever that thing is, you turn on that thing, right? Even if you like it and you're libertarian or whoever you come from, where you like that word, it doesn't matter. That word right there is killing people in that place at that time, and you turn on it. That's what's called being true. Everything else is called being a sellout to humanity. That's why I always talk about sellouts. I don't like sellouts. I don't like people who will sell out a human race for their own little group or their own little ideology. Like, that's a religion. Oh, we won't go there, are we? You're talking about if people like to hate on religions. It is a religion. You believe so deeply in your group and your philosophies and your ideologies that you're willing to let people die for them. That's a faith. That's a cult. Jasmine said, how do we have dialogue with crazy people and bring back heart? I'd like you to figure that one out. Love, Jasmine. I don't have to figure nothing out. I'm not that smart, girl. I'm not. You watch me. You know I'm not that smart. I've seen the dumb things I've done my whole life. I am not that smart. I listen to smart people. And how do you heal hate? How do you resolve issues with crazy people, people with mental illness that are willing to beat the drum for capitalism while people die from it? You know, people who will scream for gun rights as somebody's being shot. You know, people who will fight for for-profit health care as people are dying from not having universal health care. It's love, right? Love. I try not to post things that ridicule people. I try not to post things that inflame and piss people off. I try to post things that bring people together. And I think it's the same thing, you know, when you show people that they have legitimate points. But we need to agree on something a little more important right now. You know, I'm all for gun rights, but not in the hands of, you know, criminals and people who will use them to hurt other people. I'm all for guns in the hands of people who our society can trust, who do good, who show up at the cafe when somebody's robbing it and save human life. We need to start talking more like that. You know, I'm all for healthcare, universal healthcare. You know, I'm not for taxing a person to pay for it, a society to pay for it. I'm all for taxing corrupt politicians and their corporations to pay for it, right? Like, they're real basic, simple ways to have discussions that they don't become inflamed. You know, there's some crazy people though that they love the drama though, and I can't talk to them. I don't know anyone yet, I don't think, that I can't talk to. There's some people who go to crazy town every now and then, but I think when you show people you actually are concerned and you do think they're intelligent and they do have a valid point, but we need to talk about, you know, that we need to side that, you know, side table that thing that we're fighting over and hit common ground. And I think you start to see the crazy start to go away and people start to realize, wow, that smells familiar. That smells like common sense. I used to smell that all the time. We smell that all the time. We don't smell it no more, but that smells like community. That smells like common sense. And I think that's what you do. I think you just have to show people that you love them. To me, I like the saying that no matter the question, love is always the answer. It always is, because love is the only thing that can cure hate. And that's what we have to do, because that's the example. Not that I'm smart, because I'm not. But the example has always been you cure hate with love. You cure crazy with love. You cure greed with love. You cure everything with love. That's the right thing to do. Deborah said, I'm half Italian. My grandfather's mother supported her children after her husband died of the flu in 1928 by selling veggies and wine and taking in laundry, part of the income that helped the family. Yeah, and it sounds like, I mean, and that's what we did. That's what we used to do. We used to come together for each other, not fight over you can't have this, or it's okay for you to die because you were born by a stork in some place, and so that's your own dumb fault. No, it was luck. We lucked up and we were born where we were. Some of us weren't, you know, and I think that, you know, when we can think of each other as family all over the world again, then the luck arrogance starts to go away, and all of these artificial scarcity type setups. You know, you see how all of this always feeds together, and it's always the same thing. You know, the water crisis in Cape Town is artificial, and we need to talk about it that way, right? It's not that climate change has nothing to do with it. It's that right now the big issue is modern agriculture is pumping the water out at higher percentages what they ever have in history. And so now when the climate's shifting, and this could be a normal shift that happens every 20 years, as far as we know, right? This could be a normal drought, but they can't tolerate the drought because more water is being pumped out to commercial farms. And so it's artificial. It is artificial scarcity. It's planned obsolescence. They plan for you to drink wine, you drink it up and you need some more, and it's just really expensive fine wine. And what's that big word that Peter Joseph always uses? Externalities. It's a big word. I can't say the word. Big externalities, something like that. But there's always unintended consequences that actually show that corporations in the world, none are actually profitable. Because when you calculate all of the unintended externalities, one of my smart friends have posted that I mess the word up all the time, then it's not a profitable system. Hoarders call it survival for sure, a psychopathic mindset. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I agree with you. I know what you're saying now, Jeannie. You know, when hoarding rice or something, it's for survival. It's for your survival, not for a species survival. And what I'm more interested in is species survival. So there are people, and they call them survivalists, and not really. You know, but there's a debate there. I don't want to touch it too much, but there is a debate there. Like, if you see that the waters are rising and you see it coming and you start planning for it, I get that. And there's some people who refuse to plan for it and they call you crazy because you're planning for it. And then they run out of rice and you got rice because you hoarded it and they just laughed at you the whole time. You're not really predisposed to sharing that rice with them. There's a debate and an issue there that I don't think I want to talk about. I have to think about that a little more, but they are survivalists because they want a group to survive. I get that. But there's a difference between hoarding because you want to survive and keep your tribe or your family or your group alive, and someone who just wants to buy another yacht, right? I think there's a big gap in difference there. Someone who actually is collecting and hoarding stuff because they want to survive versus someone who just wants to have more than what everybody else has. I think there's a difference there. I think that might actually answer that. The good old barter system. Thank you, Gabrielle. And we have to get back to something like that. And I'm not even a barter person. Like, you know what? If you need something and I got it and I don't need it, I give it to you. That's how I was raised. That's what I'm supposed to do. I watched my father do that his whole life. So I think that the barter system is good, but I think at some point, and barter system is 10 times better than what we have today. It's a billion times better than the monetary system we have today. But I think we have to get back to a point where we take care of people because they're people, and we should be evolving the children to get to that place. You know, I'm providing something because this is my community, this is my human race, and these people need it, and that's my purpose in life. You know, my purpose in life isn't to get equitable trade for something, right? It's, you know, because it's still under that mindset. You know, we have automation and systems and things that can be deployed that bring us to a time of abundance. And so I think currently we are in a place where we need some sort of fair trade, but we need to raise the children to be more mindset towards providing to the community, not just making sure I get mine, right? Like, I think there's something there. Augustine said, a hungry person is a dangerous person. I agree. The most dangerous person most dangerous creature you will ever come across on the face of this planet is a human being trying to survive. They will fight you. They will fight cops. They will take out a knife when you got a gun. They will stab you in your back. The most dangerous people are people without food, water, and a place to live. We can't have those people running around. Everybody has to have what they need, and we can supply that. And to me, the greatest crime against humanity right now is we have the ability to supply all of this stuff, but we don't do it. Permaculture is the only way to continue to extend our fragile human existence on this planet. Yeah, Deborah, if we don't go back to some sort of permaculture in government, permaculture in water, permaculture in social existence and dealing with other people, permaculture in food, if we don't go back to more permanent, because all it is, that word just means sustain, it just means sustainable culture, a permanent sustainable culture. If we don't modify our cultures and go back to evolving our cultures to be permanent, we won't exist. And that's how the world works. We grow our own food, trade, barter with each other as few dollars to corporations as possible, care for each other. It's the only answer. Yes, Renee, and you and I spot on. We always agree on that. We have to start pulling money out of these. Now's a good time to stop buying wine. Now's the time to drink a little less. You know, I know y'all like to party in the evenings, but, you know, maybe you drink a little less. Maybe you buy a local wine. You know, every state grows wine. Every country has wine. Maybe you just focus on your local wine. May not taste the way you want it to. May not be able to brag to your friends, you know, but I think it's the right way to go. Brother Don, hell, even our politicians admit they don't read the laws. I know. Isn't that right? That's good. And they don't even hide it. And this is not old. This is why I laugh, because it's so crazy the time we live in. The politicians, they don't lie about it. They'll tell you, I don't read the laws. My staffers read them. They don't even read it, you know, and people are still cheering these people. Nothing ever should become between human being and life. Yes, thank you, Brother Harsh. That is an awesome quote. Jasmine said, I'd love to figure it out. It's definitely with love. It's definitely, we got to go. Somebody might have a good solution for solving all these problems in the future, but right now, I think we look to the past, loving people, caring more about people than you care for yourself, always loving children, everybody's children, more than you give a damn about yourself or what you can get. I think that's that walk back down that path. What about coming between other animals in their lives? Yeah. It's not just about people who die. It's the whole ecosystem of animals. It is. They're even more defenseless than poor people. Yes, Grace, I agree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. You are right. In the comment I made yesterday, what that is about, if we have people who can look at a child and be okay with a child being poor and starving to death and dying, Yemen is always the best example, those people aren't going to care about a bear, right? These people psychologically, if they can look at another species that has 2 eyes, 2 legs, a bad mustache and a bald head, you know, and they can't find love in something that looks just like it, something that it shares 99% of its DNA with, it's not going to give a damn about an animal. And so I think, Grace, our first step in getting people to care more about the environment is getting people to, one, first to care about themselves, love people around them. And after they actually love the human race more than they love themselves or their family, perhaps, then they can start to apply that love. Well, what's affecting the human race? And that is the environment we're destroying. So I think step one in getting people to care for animals is you got to get people to care for people. You got to get them to respect life, their own lives first, their own type of life before they're going to respect anything else. All right. I don't know why some people can't hear me. Donnell, you say you can't hear me. I'm not sure what's going on. Some people can hear me, others can't hear me. So I don't know what that's about. Now explain the barbed wire. I'm not sure, Jimmy, what the barbed wire is about. You got me on that one. James Corbett interviewed someone about chemtrails, and he said the whole idea is all of this is that it's the new Manhattan Project selling out humanity. Ooh, Ish. I know, Ish, you don't even wait. You throw the big, you always take out the big punch. You don't, I'm not going to touch James Corbett. I don't think enough people are ready to hear what he has to say. I'm giving little nuggets that I got from him, and they are little nuggets. And a lot of people, they're not willing to accept the fact that the oligarchs that run this world are always 10 steps ahead of us. They're not ready to accept the fact that big oil and the people behind big oil are the same people who are behind a lot of the climate change discussions. He has the facts, he has the videos, he has the data, he did the research, but people really aren't ready to hear that because their mind is still locked in fighting with someone who's saying climate change, you know, we didn't cause climate change. Big oil didn't do it. Big industry didn't do it. You're making it up. Like they're still locked in that argument. So I don't think everybody's ready for James Corbett yet. You know, people who want to hear the truth, they'll go out, listen to James Corbett. You can post the video. I forgot the name of it. Something like How Big Oil Took Over the World or Rules the World, something like that. James Corbett did some great research on it. But Ish, I don't think that people are really ready for that. The truth sucks. The truth, it sucks. And not everybody is willing to stand out on their own as an independent person and just make decisions based on facts instead of a group that they want to cozy up next to because they're scared of standing out on their own and just saying something that's true. To me, you got to say things that's true. It's the only way that we actually resolve the problem. And if we know that the people behind both sides of that debate are corrupt and it's a scam, it's just disaster capitalism, then we can't talk about a real solution and the sides keep fighting. Jasmine said, so many good comments. You all give me hope. Yeah, I know they give me hope too, Jasmine. They're good people. Good people. I love being around good people. Smart people, intelligent people who just want to know the truth. And that's why, personally, I like Facebook. I know a lot of people leaving Facebook, and Facebook's got its censoring thing that it's doing that we voted for, that we put the politicians in to screw up Facebook's business model. But yeah, you surround yourself with good people. You know, you surround yourself with good people who want to hear the truth instead of win the debate. You know, then we can kind of get somewhere. So let me see, last couple comments and I'm gonna run out. Washington State's vineyards are the world's best because of our rain in our desert. Because of our rain in our desert. And that could be true, brother Jimmy. And I appreciate Washington. Love y'all to death. I ain't gonna buy your wine though. Because Virginia grow wine. Pennsylvania got wine. I need to stick to my local economy because that's more sustainable. I don't think we're really ready to ship, you know, some grapes that are old in a bottle across a country using gas. And I say that I'm not for big oil. I'd be a hypocrite. Some things we have to do that with, but most things we have to stop doing that with. You know, we have to start buying local. So you know what that does to me when you say that? That says, damn it, Pennsylvania, get your act together. You need to make some better vineyards, right? You need to grow the type of wine that grows better in their climate. Like when you support local, then that's when we start getting out of these hypocrite boots. I don't like the hypocrite boots. And I'm still a hypocrite. We all are. We all are in certain places. We got to find those places. But when I see it, I get rid of it. And so, you know, the things that I buy, I try to make sure that they're as local as possible. My soap is local. You know, my deodorant is local. The cups that I drink from, they're local made. The brother right here made this cup for me. In fact, he sources his own clay. So it's actually Pennsylvania and New Jersey clay. Like when we really start to follow through on the things that we say we believe in, that's how we get out of this, right? And I think we're all hypocrites if we sit back and we keep saying politicians and 1% save us, get us out of here. It's just, it's an ignorant argument that politicians who all work for the 1% of the 1% will actually solve anything for poor people. They're hired to take everything from poor people. This is why I don't cheer politicians. And I don't think politicians are bad people. It's just they've been bought. And if they've been bought, then we have to stop cheering them and start telling them what they should be doing. That's what I'm thinking. We must care for the most vulnerable among us. Mary, that's some real human stuff. I appreciate that. Keep saying that, girl. Big Oil is in the court for Big Oil is in court for their lives right now. Big Oil is in court for their lives. I know Big Oil is having trouble because the people behind Big Oil, they've taken over big sustainability, which is why they were trying to screw the third world countries in that climate agreement. All right, my day is pushing on. I'm going to have to get out of here. But anyway, listen, it's been a good conversation. Love y'all. I certainly appreciate you guys jumping in and having a basic conversation. Speak up for Cape Town when you hear things and people talking about it. Talk about what the truth is. I appreciate anybody sharing. These are things that we want to make go viral. We need the people who live in Cape Town. We need their voices to be heard. They see the swimming pools. They see how the wealthy live there. They see the vineyards. They know where all the water's going. They know probably that this isn't anything new. They know that this probably isn't an extreme part of climate change. The climate is changing, but the problem in Cape Town is we're using all the water for modern agriculture. That's the truth. We can fix it. People don't have to die. Anyway, love y'all to death. Great conversation today. Y'all have a good day.